first.
ask us.
No, hey,
Yeah,
I get that, because the
whatever you
same thing.
wanna-
I'm going to be
whatever you
careful with my
wanna-
answers also, because as Pete says, this is evidence.
Wow.
Okay, so
what?
first question I have for you guys is, what are you seeing right now in the market? What's happening? And again, from the perspective of, we're lenders, we're buyers, we're landlords. We kind of do we wear different hats. So Demetri, I'll start with you. What are you seeing?
Well, I decided in January I was selling about a third of my portfolio. This was actually before all this started. So I now
Lucky
have
bastard.
a bunch of. So I closed two of them. Last one on March 13th, and I have some on vacant. I had some showings. Now they're stopping. Some are starting back up. So as far as activity, it's slowing. We're finally seeing some interesting things with title. At first, all the recording offices were closed. Now there's so much e-filing. I sold a note where the borrower, I'm the lender in Denver, the other lender's in Denver, the property is in Leadville, the borrower is in Philadelphia. He got a virtual notary in Texas who's licensed in Virginia to get it done virtually, and we closed that last Friday virtually. And the Leadville clerk and recorder's offices have been closed for a month. So that was interesting. On the lending side, we sold a big package of reperforming notes for 78 cents on the dollar 2 weeks ago. It was
Good job.
That was a $3 million package. There's an $8 million one we're putting together with a $20 million one from somebody else. And we're looking at selling the performers for 75 to 78 cents on the dollar. We put a non-performing package on the market yesterday. We had two bids, one for 2 cents, one for 3 cents. Now, mind you, the lowest I ever bought was 4 cents. And then it was maybe 7 cents in 2010. And so
Gee, I could probably beat that offer.
You could even double it, right?
Yeah. Don't get greedy.
Wait, you know what? But as we're getting started, I didn't do this at the beginning of the call. The name of this call is Four Grizzly Bastards of Real Estate. Actually, if Mike Cantu joins us, but the three grizzly bastards of real estate investing. So as we're getting started, Demetri, just kind of say who you are, your background, where you are.
I've been a bastard for 10, 20, 12 years now. I've been grizzly for a few weeks now. I decided not to shave. Got my own, self-done haircut a couple of days ago. Did my kids. They look a lot better than I do.
Did you use a Flowbee?
I thought about that a few weeks ago. I wanted to renew the license on the Flowbee. I wanted to see who owned that license, but yeah, there's some. No, but the next time I am going to do a razor in one hand and a shot back in the other because my kids couldn't stay still because they were itching so much. So my youngest kind of looks like he's some sort of survivor. Some patchy hair in some spots. But I'm in Denver. I'm a single-family home investor in notes on single-family homes nationwide. And I'm half as grizzly as Mike, and only a quarter as grizzly as the other Mike, who's not on yet. So,
yeah, who's very grizzly. Michael?
Michael Jake from Colorado Springs. Landlord. I've formerly been a wholesaler, fix and flipper, kind of done it all in the single family home space. Bought my first house in 2000, but didn't get my fancy perforated edge business card printed up saying I was an investor until 2000.
Perforated edge.
Perforated edge.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wait. With that perforated edge, what type of dot matrix printer did you use?
Those were like you used to get them at Staples, like you had the dot matrix printer. Yeah, they were high class, man.
I remember those.
And
Um,
those shelves make you look real smart. I'm pretty.
Well,
yeah.
I'm seeing courses. I'm seeing
Well,
seeing ring
that's
binders.
the
I'm seeing
beauty of
courses.
Zoom. I just downloaded that backdrop off of the internet. Fake
they,
drop
they
in from Zoom. So
they call those courses shelf help.
shelf
Hey,
help.
I got to tell you, one of the things I did 2-3 weeks ago, and I told Cantu this, is I pulled out his course, Don't Kick Off Real Estate Island. And I pulled that out and read it. And, I hadn't read it in a while. In fact, Demetri, you'd asked me about I had that course, and I had it somewhere in my notes, but I don't know that I had it anymore. But when we were at the Masters of Real Estate back in November, you asked me if I had it. And I said, I don't think I have it anymore. And you went and bought me those courses.
I
Or
did.
got them, or stole them, or whatever you did. But
no, I paid full freight. But you're worth it. You're worth all 200.
but I appreciate you doing that. I want you to know I did read it and went through and highlighted the hell out of it, because Mike, it's kind of like when Pete does his what box, his little one sentence things. There's so much in that, and Cantu's the same way. You can put a lot into a sentence where you sit back and go, oh, "Damn, that was good."
That's right. Yeah, what Mike can do in one sentence, Bill can do in 12.
No kidding. If I can do it at all. So anyway, Michael Jake, so how long have you been investing?
Well, since 2003 officially. I mean, I bought my first house to live in, and it was going to be a rental. I was just going to be on the slow and steady plan, and but I was in information technology, and kind of right after the millennium, right after I bought my first house, we got all called into a room, and I was not certain of my economic future inside corporate America. So I started taking real estate a little more seriously, and got married in 2002. So 2003 was like the first year we really started hitting the ground running with it.
And we've all been around for a long time. So I'm Bill Cook, and in my case, we started in '95. Been through 2 big downturns. This is now the third. If it turns into a downturn, we'll see what comes. And nothing special. We do one deal at a time. Both of these guys are bigger players than I ever would be. They probably do more deals in a year than I did in my entire lifetime. So I was a one house at a guy, get it fixed up, get it rented or sold, then move to the next house. And that's about it. But these 2 guys are 2 of my best friends, and love them to death. They make me laugh. And it's important to have like-minded thinkers who are around you, people who aren't negative or doomsday guys who are looking at something like this going, let's see what we can do with this thing. That's really important to have around you right now. But anyway, so going back to you, Demetri, as far as on what you're doing right now, you talked about as far as you'd sold a package of notes, and you had the one. I think the last thing you said is you had 2 offers come in, one for 2 cents, one for 3 cents.
Yeah, so we're we've sold some performing notes. The non-performing notes, we typically have to pay to board them, and we are literally deboarding everything and literally putting them back in the drawer, because there's a lot of politics we have to deal with right now, and trying to repurpose the staff who's doing that. Real estate wise, I was trying to, I think here, I don't know if it's everywhere, but here in Denver, probably the first, second week of April is the best time to put a house in the market. So I was putting a bunch of houses that were rentals on the market. Some of them needed work, and we've now decided we're going to do the work into those, and we'll be ready for about a month or so. And I'll be happy to be selling quite a few houses.
Are you getting any feedback from contractors? Are they lacking work, or are they filled up as they always are?
Yeah, two months ago, what we were paying $5 a square foot for tile, people were getting 20. Up in Fort Collins doing new build stuff. Now my contractors have all their friends who are not working. So my contractor, who was pretty full, now he has twice the amount of people, and they're working full steam. And we'll be knocking out, probably about 5 houses in a few weeks here.
Cool.
So that's what we're doing right this second.
Michael?
I had a funny call. We do a kind of Slack group and a Zoom call with investors the other day, and we had kind of coast to coast people, and it was really funny because people started talking about, well, I get 90%, I'm getting 85% of what I normally would collect. And then we started asking the question, well, how does that compare to normal? And most people did normal or better, because over the last 3 weeks, we probably talked more to our tenants than we have in the last 3 years. And just the touch that people are doing with talking to their tenants. I'm surprised that I have tenants that are thriving through this. I did a three choice deal with my tenants. One is, if you're thriving through this, pay early and we'll give you a discount.
That was
Two,
smart.
if you need help, we're here to help you, and here's a whole bunch of resources to go. And then the third is, if you're in dire need, we're paying for you to leave because we don't want a squatter for a few months. And so we probably have on that spectrum, happier tenants than they've been for a while, and we certainly have talked to them more than we ever have.
Michael?
I would pretty much restate the same thing. We've been communicating with our tenants very well. Rent roll, I mean, most of it came in. What we knew wasn't coming in, we knew ahead of time, just from keeping an open line of communication with the tenants. And we had a few houses, just as Demetri said, that for us, the best time to put a house on is late winter, early spring, and to the point where you're out of it at the retail level by school's out. That's a moving target, is what we're seeing. Like yesterday, my realtor called me for a house we were going to list today, or what is today? Wednesday. Yesterday.
It's not Friday, because I wouldn't be talking to you on Friday, because I know what Friday is for you.
Yeah, that's a moving target as well.
Yeah, it's spread out more of the week too. So
yeah. So yesterday, my realtor called and said we can't take pictures. The governor doesn't want realtors in houses. Today, he's like, well, they reinterpreted it and they're going to let them go out and take pictures of it. So it was, the situation was, if you were going to put something on the market, you had to put it on the market, you had to video it, and you had to go to contract sight unseen from the pictures and video tours. And then once it was under contract, then you could do inspections. So we're throwing it up there. We're going to see. We're fully prepared to sit on it for another 6 weeks if we have to. But I think the rule book is being rewritten on a daily basis based on what comes out of the governor, the mayor, or whoever else has got an opinion on the topic on who should be out, who should not be out, and what the safety level is. I mean, the beauty is anything we're selling is vacant. So that adds one layer of safety, I think, for anybody involved. But, are you seeing a slowdown?
Are you seeing a slowdown? Have you seen you've seen a slowdown in showings?
Well, there's a slowdown in showings because there's a significant slowdown in inventory on the market.
Is it really? Do they pull, or is it just wasn't there?
I think people have either pulled or not listed because of what's going on. And I think a lot of people that are living in their houses, which is the bulk of the market, most houses that are on the MLS for sale are still occupied by an owner occupant for the most part. So those people don't want strangers coming in their house. So they're going to wait it out. They're going to wait and see what happens. I mean, these are just my opinions, but that's why, you can report, oh, we're like 70% less volume. Well, duh, nobody's putting their house on the market. But again, if there's no inventory, the stuff that is on the market that is priced, my feedback I'm hearing from my realtor, who does a fairly significant amount of volume, is that if it's on the market, if it's priced right, they're going to contract, and in some cases there's multiple offers because rates are still low. Homeowners or would-be homeowners that felt priced out of the market or outbid, they feel like this is a narrow window of time when they can kind of get in and have less competition to get into a house. So.
And again, I've talked to a lot of investors, and I've talked to a number of realtors also. And pretty much what I was seeing was showings are way down. People have called the realtors and say, pull my house off the market. I don't want it to be shown. Whatever you have to do, where I don't want anybody coming into my house. I don't need that. And I went out on this past Sunday and we made an offer on a house because a new sign went in the yard. But I'm just trying to get through some of the phone calls and the work. You okay, Demetri? Long night, buddy?
Yeah.
You okay? You go okay, pal?
Just a little grizzly.
one little cup of coffee. But anyway, I just think I think a lot of people who would be buyers right now are pulled back. They're waiting. And a lot of people who are sellers are doing the same thing. But I want to go out and just hit every house that's in my area. And I haven't worked our 5-mile circle since 2015. I've been on the road and we got done and it was like, we don't need any more houses. But we do now want 6 more houses. And I think I've talked to you guys about this. We were waiting till the slowdown. And I thought that'd be in 21 or 22. And we'll go buy 6 more houses. But I looked at Kim about 2 weeks ago and said, well, hell, this is the slowdown. And I thought we'd kind of go in and go out and be done.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why 6? How did you come up with 6?
I want to write a book, how to buy 6 nice houses in 6 weeks for $6.
Okay.
And really the way what happened was I've gone from 35 houses in 2015 down to 6. So I want to double my rental houses. So I sold 29 houses, but only 2 for cash. So there's 27 other houses that got sold with owner financing. So that's what we've been doing. I was getting rid of the management headaches and I was able to harvest the equity in our houses. And I didn't want to sell for cash. So because I'm giving terms, I was able to sell a house. If a house appraises out at 155, I can sell it for 180, 185, 10% down, owner financing, do that all day long. So it was time to harvest. But now when we got down to 6, because I'm teaching more, I have this thing called earned income. I'm not sure how to deal with that. It was like, oh, we're going to have earned income. So we have losses carried forward, but I didn't want to eat them up. So it's like, let's go get some more rent houses. So I want to do 6 that we're just going to be rentals, but I'm going to get 5 more rentals on top of that and put them in my HSA account. And I've never put a house in any retirement account, any account I have. So I'm going to be curious to see how I do that because, you guys do it all the time, but I don't. I've always used notes and options to control.
It's only kinky the first time, Bill.
Is it really? I like kinky. It's not so bad. What is it? Weird is when you use a chicken. Kinky is when weird is when you use a feather. Kinky is when you use the whole chicken. Something like that.
That's a different seminar you're teaching, Bill.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, grizzly bastards, baby, grizzly bastards. I'm not trying to be politically correct, but then again, it is being recorded. So anyway, I want to add houses to my HSA because one of the things that's happened to both me and Kim in the last few years is we both had health issues pop up. So Kim just cut her foot back in November, but I was surprised at how long she was down. She just started walking again when we got on the cruise ship. That we got off in early March, but she was down and we were in a hotel for a month because they had handicap facilities. But that was $75 a day, and it could have been a lot more than that. And I looked at Kim and I said, we need to really build up the HSA, and we've done self-directs out of it. But I just want to stick 6 or 5 houses in there and let them generate cash. And then if we need them, because Kim and I don't have kids, so if something happens to us, we're going to have to go to assisted living. We can't turn to family. So anyway, that's why the 6 houses. I just want to go from 6 to 12, and I thought we'll be good with that. I'm going to trade a couple of the notes that I have to get the houses. But right now, I think I can just structure my way into some good deals. Does that make sense?
Sure. I just didn't know if there was some, that
more
6
sense
houses equated to some kind of financial goal or backed into a lifestyle change.
It was, okay. That's.
I thought we were supposed to go from earned income to convert to passive, and you're saying you're going from passive to convert to.
Well, it's because I'm teaching. Yes, I'm teaching, and and that they pay you with they send you 1099 stuff, and it was like, well, what the hell's this for? This is declared income. I'm not used to seeing this. But again, we have losses carried forward because of all the properties, but I can see us eating that up. And so it's like, let's just add a few more rentals to the portfolio.
Gotcha.
What did y'all learn from the Great Recession, 7 through 12? What lessons did you learn there that you used over the last, call it 8 years, to get ready for this? Because we didn't see this coming, obviously. 6 months ago, none of us were talking about, oh, wait till you see the pandemic that's about to hit the country. and it's going to shut everything down. So we didn't see this coming at all. And, usually with the downturn, something else causes it. In 7, it was the banking. In 2000, it was the dot-com bust. This time it's a virus. But real estate can get affected by this. So what lessons did y'all take from last downturn? And then that you're using those lessons that got you to where you are now, where you're in better shape than where we were 12 years ago.
Who do you want to go first?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, D.
Well, I'm not going to be the guy who said, well, I saw this coming. But I did see then and ever since I study Warren Buffett, I try to study.
I love Buffett. We've been listening to his videos.
Right now I'm reading something on Alfred Loomis, who was in the 1920s, and reading stuff in the 1960s. So I don't think that history repeats itself. I do think it rhymes. And I do think that there's always a cycle. And the minute someone starts congratulating themselves that this is the best ever, will never change, it's time to worry that things are going to change. But what Warren Buffett says is, be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. In January, I realized there was nothing but green lights, and I was fearful. And I annoyed all these guys at the ski thing that we do in February, because I said, I'm selling, I'm getting out. And every single one of them was trying to convince me otherwise, which even told me even more green lights, be even more fearful. So I had conviction that week. I listed 2 houses that week. So I didn't see this coming, but cycles are cyclical. But one thing I want to change the narrative on this right now is, don't try to compare it to something else. We've never seen anything like this. And this is not a recession by definition. In fact, the bear market lasted 2 weeks. We are officially back into a bull market. But if you don't pay attention fast enough, you won't know that. But by definition, we might not even see a recession. By definition, a recession is 2 quarters with negative earnings. And we might not see that. In fact, there has been $2 trillion unleashed up till today. Today, there was $2.5 trillion in the credit markets, which changed the game. And we might not see a recession by definition. Not right now. It might come, but it might not be right now. But for this thing right now, I heard someone call it the Great Cessation, which I think is
the Great what?
Because cessation.
Cessation.
Our government told us to stop working. We don't have a recession. Most recessions come from financial markets getting drained of capital. There is a lot of capital in the markets right now. Capital is still flowing, and it's being backstopped daily by the Treasury. And so we don't have the typical recession crunch of financial disaster, because we literally have our government tell us to stop working. So to compare this to anything else is not accurate.
The one thing the thing that you said that I really liked was, when all the lights turned green, you got nervous. And it's funny, back in 2015, 2016, same thing happened to me. I looked at Kim and I said, this is a really, really hot market. And I didn't think it would go on as long as it did. I thought we'd probably be done around 18, 19. But I wanted to harvest the profit in my houses. And it wasn't that what I was losing. It was I was locking in. It was like, just shear the sheep, be done.
Yeah, but I mean, you gave up of another 100% by doing so. What you can try to trick everybody is to say you timed it perfectly. Your timing was wrong, but what you did time was you timed your lifestyle. You timed your lifestyle to what you wanted to do, and it just happened to be at that time. And also, it happened to be in 2010. That was when I was hitting my fastest earning potential. Also, at the peak of my earning potential in 2017, I pulled my family up and took them to Greece. Now, it had nothing to do with what the market did, but we wanted to live a year abroad. And it was probably the worst financial decision I ever made, just like yours was. But it worked better for your lifestyle, for what you want to do at that time.
And again, there was enough. At some point, you look and say, I've got enough here. And, you're always going to improve it and watch after it, make sure that it's nurtured and taken care of. But when you have enough, you got to go play. You got to have certain days of the week, right, Michael, that you just go, you get in a race car and you go around the track a couple times.
Exactly.
And pray to God the steering wheel doesn't break.
Exactly. You never want the steering wheel to fall off.
So how about you, Michael, as far as what lessons did you take from 7 through 12 that you've been implementing over the last 7, 8 years and they're helping you now?
I'll try to share a few things what went wrong in the last one. Just so there's perspective. Like Demetri says, this is sort of an unprecedented thing. It's different. It's going to have its own set of dance moves to get through it. But mistakes I made were on the last one was I was flipping. I was, myself and my wife were both working the business full time at that point, and I had one very good relationship with short-term lending, and that vaporized. Just due to he was exposed on other projects, big projects, and his incapacity to lend put me out of the buying or closing on properties to flip. So I had to scramble to find private lender relationships. So, one lender or worse, one source of funds was the wrong answer. It clearly handcuffed me going into a really tough time in the market. As a wholesaler going into the market, as a mechanism to, have food on the table money, marketing costs, I was sourcing inventory off market. I was doing a lot of direct mail, a lot of offline marketing to get my phone to ring, to put deals together. When the market turned, less people were able to say yes. Not that more people wanted to say yes, their equity went away overnight and they couldn't say yes. And then the people that I was trying to sell contracts to had much more stringent buy criteria, and many of them were out of business because their lenders cut them off or their funding sources dried up. So wholesaling isn't as recession proof as what I think a lot of people think it is. And the other thing I would say is the bigger ships in my market all went broke. Like everybody that was doing a lot of volume in the flip side of it that was using debt went broke. Like I don't know any of them that came through that market. So me coming into this market, rider downers have plenty of source of funds, have access to credit lines. We paid off a bunch of houses. We have, multiple private lender relationships for non-bank money. Because, what has happened overnight? A lot of these big hard money lending funds have just said, whoop, we're out.
Yep.
Others are at least, they may not be out of business, but they're just sitting back on the sidelines waiting. And if they are still lending, their criteria went from here to here. So, the rules changed overnight. So if you don't have to flip in this market, don't. People that have high overhead, I feel for them. I really do. And that's what I think, hopefully these PPP loans and the EIDL loans will help them kind of weather that storm. But thankfully, we run a lean and mean ship at this point. We got big when the market was big, when it was ripe to get big, but last two years, we have radically contracted our business. We've contracted our overhead. I was first this year, I'm like, I don't know why am I doing this? Why am I not being more aggressive buying, because as Demetri said, all the lights were green. Everything looked positive until it wasn't. And, we didn't see where the punch was coming from, but it definitely connected. So.
It's funny again, in my case, when we go back, I've been journaling since I was 19 years old. And in doing the journaling through 7 through 12, it was funny when we came back up from Florida right after we got off the cruise, about 4 days after the cruise. And I got up here and first thing I did was went and got my journals and looked through them to see what was I saying to myself, because I would write to myself in the future. In other words, when you come back and read this through these hard times, when you see what's going on is going on. When you see this, here are the things you need to do. And the three things I kept telling myself over and over, and I think both of you touched on this. Number one was I had to get my houses paid off. Over and over, I said that to me: get free and clear. Don't have any debt on the houses. Number two was have an emergency fund. You know, Dave Ramsey special. So Kim and I, we went to Dave Ramsey, I think twice. We went one, then we went back 3 years later. So I didn't use Dave Ramsey for my business side because my tenants are paying for my properties. But I did use Dave Ramsey for our personal side. So we use cash to pay for everything, no credit cards. And to this day, if you go out with me, if you watch, most of the time I still pay with cash. Right on that thing, I will do a expense report, but I still pay with cash. So it was the get our properties paid off, the emergency fund, and then a war chest. And I know from 12 until like 15, we were putting everything to getting everything paid off. And then it was, we already had the emergency fund set up, and then it was, how do we build a war chest? And so when all this happened, 2-3 weeks ago, I was listening to some of my friends who went through the downturn in 7 and 8, and they were going through it again. It's what you said, they were flippers, and they have staff, and they have people, and all of a sudden now they can't pay them, and they're looking, well, we need to do the PPP, but they're in a hard time, and Kim and I are sitting back saying, what can we go buy now? And the other thing I noticed about the last downturn is, and this surprised me, I spent 3 years on defense. I thought it was like a 7 and 8, and by 9 I was out of it. And when I went back and read, in 7, 8, and 9, I was on defense that entire time. And there was deals, houses I could buy for $40 a square foot. And I would tell myself, you're passing up on this house. It's a great house, great location, $40 a square foot that cost $120 a square foot to build. You should buy and keep this thing. And I wouldn't do it because I was scared. And when this happened this time, it's like there's no fear. It's like, let's see what houses we can go buy. And Kim and I decided to stay here for the summer just to be able to get the 6 houses. I just didn't think the downturn would come this fast. And I don't know if it is a downturn. Is there a downturn coming? Are we going to see a drop in prices? Because you guys are, Colorado Springs and Denver, and you are in 2 of the hottest markets in the country. Is there a downturn here?
I mean, at a retail level, not yet. I mean, but that key word being yet, I don't know. Demetri commented before, we might not actually on paper have a recession if we come out of this before we have 2 consecutive quarters. I think we will. That's, but my crystal ball broke. I'm guessing. I just have my own opinions. I think we've really only seen the first domino tip at this point. But I think we're going to have at least a couple of more dominoes as far as, businesses that are going to be impacted that we didn't even see. And I'll use an example. We have one of our tenants is a mail carrier. Okay. Government funded position, right? Seems pretty stagnant. Her hours got cut because she doesn't have any businesses to deliver the mail to. They're all shut down. So her hours got cut.
I thought they were on salary.
So did I. But ultimately, her hours got cut because she doesn't have places to deliver the mail to because those businesses are shut down. Is that all the mail carriers? Probably not. I mean, like, I'm still getting mail at my house, but I never thought about those businesses shutting their doors no longer, that's going to impact other businesses along the way. And when those businesses become impacted, we're going to see more unemployment. And as we see more unemployment, other businesses are going to falter. I mean, I don't see that not happening, but I could be wrong.
I didn't fully answer your other question. So this is
I'm
live.
used to it. I'm used to it. Don't worry.
But your question is, what did I do different, or what did I learn from? One thing that I did, which is hard to do, but it's from training, is to be contrarian to read what I can, understand what I can, but then try to figure out what's the other side of this and how, what is a contrarian view of this? So in 2008, I was buying houses that my insurance company would charge. I'm buying houses cheaper than what my insurance company would do as a minimum. In 2010, I was buying notes when people thought California was dead in the water. Everyone would not buy any California notes. I bought as much as I could. And then in the beginning of this year, it was all green lights, so I'm going the other direction. And then over the last few weeks, when everyone says everything's dead in the water, I plowed so much money into the stock market and it was completely contrarian. And I bought especially the contrarian stuff. But that it is, I don't know if it's natural or trained. I have a friend who says, some people run away from a fire, some people run to a fire. He says, we bring the marshmallows. So we try to figure out, how to, make the best of it. And that's hard to do when the noise is so loud. You have to figure out how to sift through all the noise. And when you find out there's not much information once you get through all the noise. One thing I did heavy in 2008, 9, 10 was invest in my training. I figured that was the best time to do it, and it paid off in spades. The second seminar I ever did actually is where I met Mike. It was a Jack Miller seminar, and from the one thing that Jack Miller said, I made $34,000, and I figured that prepaid some seminars going forward. So that was the time to invest in myself. And over the last few weeks, I'm exhausted. I don't know much about the stock market, but I have exhausted myself in trying to, learn as fast as I can to figure out what I was buying and why. And I've had a lot of fun doing so.
Okay, but you said as far as you're a Buffett fan, so am I, and basically his is by good companies, great managers that are distressed. But are you going in and out of companies, or are you buying them to hold?
We'll see. Some of the I think predicting is fairly worthless. I think it tells you more about the predictor than what the outcome is. I said we are not in a recession right now. I did not say I don't think there's one coming. I do think there's one coming. I think there's a second shoe to fall from this. I don't think it's going to be immediate. But when some of the stuff unravels, so some of the stuff I'm buying, I bought some stuff I'll hold the rest of my life. I bought Boeing, Chevron, all this stuff so cheap. I'll hold it the rest of my life. But some of the stuff I bought, I plowed heavy into Carnival Cruise Lines. It was down, 80%. I'll probably get out when it's back up to about, 60, 80% of what it was, because it won't have, it's not going to get back to, flying full throttle for a long time. And a lot of these companies won't. So I'm not super bullish, but Buffett evolved to that, buying good companies and good managers before he was and that was from, Charlie Munger's teaching him, but before the Ben Graham teaching was find the cigar butt on the ground that has a couple puffs left of it. There's some of those companies out there right now that will, double in the immediate term, but they may be dead in the water going forward. I mean, this one thing that we can probably figure out is whether it's short term or long term, this changes the way a lot of people act. It's going to change the way that people travel. It's going to, I have a friend who has a lot of houses in Las Vegas, and he's scared. I mean,
VRBOs?
No.
So his house is okay.
So, I have friends who have VRBOs there too, but and the travel is more immediate. They're going to have immediate loss of money, but the long-term people in Las Vegas, they all work for somebody who works for somebody who works for somebody who works for the casino. And, but, it's going to be a little while before people are comfortable to be going to a boxing match or a hockey game or a Britney Spears concert or Cirque du Soleil, any of that stuff. That is all the drivers of Las Vegas. It's going to be a while before people are comfortable with that. And also, we're going to see a paradigm shift with, I was hoping WeWork would go public only so we could short them. I don't think WeWork will exist in a couple of months. I saw today they're not paying their rent. But the idea of 12 people being on one table working side by side, that's probably going to fall out of vogue. We're going to see some paradigm shifts of how people want to work. We're going to see some people who find out they're way more productive at home. We're going to find some people who want to improve their homes, stay in their homes, or they hate their homes. go to Westchester County, New York, because they don't want to be on top of each other in New York City. I mean, we're going to see a radical paradigm shift in behavior, which could drive, what happens going forward.
I'm curious to see what happens with the vacations as far as with travel. So people need to get out and go, but maybe if it's not a cruise ship, what will it be? Because cruise ship makes a lot of sense because you got your food, it's right there, you got your room, you get off every day in a different port. There's a lot to be said for cruise ships. And then the other part is cruise ships are going on sale. We talked to someone yesterday on a webinar where I think that there was a trip through the Panama, and I think it was like $600 a person for an ocean view. It wasn't a balcony, but it was an ocean view. But for $600 to go through the Panama Canal, how do you say no to that?
Well, as now a major portion of my holdings, I encourage you to take Carnival, Holland, or whatever else is owned by Carnival.
Royal Caribbean. Yeah, we've been watching Royal Caribbean really hard and fast. It's like, okay, that's where we want to go. So in my case, go ahead.
People who like to do cruises will do cruises, and they will change, and they will change their behavior. You might not be putting two random people in a room. You might be pulling out half the tables. You might be doing so. Things are going to change. I think we'll probably see companies like that will be the leaders on disinfecting everything and changing it. Here in Colorado, a big driver is ski resorts, and they shut down. But before they shut down, they said, well, we're not going to serve hot meals. We're only going to do box lunches. So we might see something different. Vail said we might not even open next year, and they own a lot of places, but I think we'll probably see something different in how they're interacting with people, or how they're, whether or not there's even restaurants open on the mountains.
Michael, how about in Colorado Springs? My guess is you're not inside the granite right now, so.
Well, what was the question?
Are you in NORAD?
Well, Demetri kind of went backwards to as far as what he saw and what he learned, and he went into where he switched over to stocks. So he's contrarian. And when he said that, I started thinking of a poster my mother got me, because I've always kind of gone the same way. Whatever everybody was doing, I'd go do something different. And she got me a poster when I was a kid, and it had a picture of all these lemmings going off the cliff. And there was one lemming going the other way, going, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. And she always said I was that lemming, because same thing as far as I wanted to harvest our houses. And a lot of people, especially someone like Pete, couldn't understand why I would want to do that. I went, it's a hot market. Things have gone up. And he's like, well, you're going to notes, and the notes will pay off one day. I said, well, Pete, I can go do other deals. I can trade out of the notes, but right now I'm harvesting. I said, you plant in the spring, you let it grow in the summer, but you have to harvest in the fall. And if you don't ever harvest, your crop rots in the dirt. So when the market got up to 29,000 or whatever the market was, and you didn't harvest some of your good stocks and put some cash in the bank on the side, that was probably not a good idea. But now and again, you got to harvest. So
we were trying to get Cantu on here, and I remember Cantu in his down market course, who I've probably listened to that probably as much as any course I've ever listened to. He talks about, it was never my goal to try to time the market or get in and out. My goal was to have paid off free and clear houses that would support me for the rest of my life. And that was sort of my goal as well. So I wasn't, did I have some houses we were planning on selling from our rental portfolio this, second quarter? Yes. Do we have some we're waiting to put on the market? Yes. That was more of a defensive move to go from, my plan was always play catch up. How can I get there quicker? So it was buy more so I can at some point sell some to pay others off. And we were still following that model, just not as aggressively, because, over time our cash flow is better, but it's still, let's get rid of some underperformers. Let's get so one of the issues we had in an up market, we've had major hailstorms in our market. We're probably one of the hail capitals of the world. So
really, I didn't know that. Y'all have hail there?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I had no idea. I didn't even know that.
Bring your RV out and hang out here.
Yeah, right.
See how it goes. So we had in 2006, there's a neighborhood near Fort Carson where I had I had guys passing the phone from one guy to the next, and we bought 6 houses in one cluster, and I had probably a total of maybe 10 houses in this neighborhood, and this neighborhood was decimated by hail. So I mean, you know what that does to a motorhome, don't you, Bill?
I was in that area. That's where my
Yeah.
motorhome was. I could
I know
we
that.
would climb the mountain and see the mortars at Fort Carson. They were shooting mortars, and you could hear the boom. You see the explosion on the ground, then hear a boom 25 seconds later. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, so we had like 20, 25, $30,000 worth of damage to every house in this neighborhood. So, you know, we're trying to quote diversify into, you know, so our houses aren't clustered in the same neighborhoods throughout town, just in case an incident like that was my wife runs construction, and you know, she was really busy just doing construction on houses we already owned. So you know, it's not like it's a financial loss, it's a time loss. And when you have a time loss multiplied at one phase of the market, it sucks. It's, you know, it was a lot of work to do to get back to break even, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a quick question for both of you. So we're in this market. Let's say again, rents aren't coming in for a little while, and notes aren't being paid for a little while. Y'all have done what it takes to be comfortable right now, as far as y'all can weather the storm, correct?
Yeah, but a quote by Jack Miller definitely comes to mind. He's like, you know, you use leverage to get from, you know, where you start from to where you want to be, but at some point it's like a you know, it's like a bad clutch. You know, you lose in traction, and at some point, you know, when you've got enough, get rid of the debt. And right now it's a slipping clutch if you have that debt, because it's now government is more or less implying to our tenants, don't pay your rent. And I think a good number of tenants that are well educated understand that it's not a free pass. It's just, you know, it doesn't go away. And the farther you get behind the 8 ball, the worse they're going to be. So, you know, we saw the bulk of our rent come in, and what we didn't get come in, we kind of knew the people that were going to have some trouble, and we, you know, we can work with them.
You know, we had pretty much all of our rent come in. There was 2 people who'd called me up and said there'll be a problem, this problem. But you know, I did not get one single payment for my mobile home park.
Not one.
Not one. That's never happened before. I mean, the park pays. So they've all been talking to each other. And I think they were watching what's on TV. But again, I talked to some of the people on the phone, sent everybody a letter. I explained on the letter the difference between someone who can't pay and someone who won't pay. And I said, if you're someone who won't pay, we got a problem. So I'm going to have to go out and usually by now I've already got the demand letters out. I just haven't had time because of the amount of time I've been on the phone for the last 2 or 3 days. But by this afternoon or tomorrow, I'll have demand letters on all the doors, and I need them to explain to me why they didn't call me. Because the letter said, if you're going to have a problem, don't let it wait. Call me. Let me know what's going on. But not one person. Again, you talk about a cluster. So I'm sure they all went out and talked to each other, because they do, and just decided, well, you know, I think Bill means you don't have to pay at all. So then now it's getting them on unemployment if they lost their jobs, but making sure that they catch up pretty quick. So to finish up the call, the last question I have for you guys is, what do you see coming in the next 6 months? And again, all of us are old enough to realize our crystal ball is broken and it doesn't work. If it did, we would have seen this coming and shorted everything a big way. But what do y'all see coming in the next 6 months real estate wise?
I could tell you what I'm doing. Go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead.
I can tell you what I'm doing, but to pretend I can predict, you know, I can act with what I think is happening. I love debt. I can't get enough of it. And what most people are missing the fact of is that there is a lot of cheap money out there right now. And if I told you how much I had on margin on stocks, you would take one of those saw blades.
You would not make me very happy. Yeah, you wouldn't make me happy, because you wouldn't even when you use the word margin, I went, God, not margin. But anyway, but I'm 60.
This way. I looked at it this way. Right now, I would rather have debt on an asset going up in value than debt on an asset going down in value. So I am fine. I mean, when this is clicking what it's doing right now, I'm fine with the debt. Will I have it for a long time? No. But it is rocket fuel on this rocket right now. So that will be short term, but that will get to you know, cash. not cash, but not margin on the stocks that I have. I for the real estate, I'm selling some houses. I'm taking some of that cash. I will refinance some of the houses left. I might even pay some off, but I won't pay them off until I have to. Right now, I'd rather have cash.
Wait. When you refinance some of the houses, are you pulling out or just going into longer term or a lower interest rate?
Say it again. If I sell the house,
Did you say you're going to be refinancing some houses?
Well, I have about a third of my houses that are definitely sell, a third of maybe, and a third don't. So we'll see if I'm going to sell some of the maybes. I might refinance some of the maybes, and I might pay off some of the don'ts. But I'm not paying off anything right now because I do think if I have any problems, it's not going to be in the next 6 months. It's going to be 18 to 24 months. And if I have to pay off the houses, I will then. So right now, I'd rather have invested money and cash.
Why 18 to 24 months? What do you think's out there?
I don't think the recession's right now. I think the recession comes later.
Yeah.
I think right, like I said, $2.5 trillion today to backstop credit markets, that shouldn't happen. And once we get through, my opinion is this is not a true recession. This our government told us to stop working. So our government has to prop this up to keep it going. When another Buffettism is that capitalism without failure is like Christianity without hell. Like if we're going to continue to do this propping up, there's going to be a come to Jesus, and it's going to be big.
Yep.
I mean, one thing I might, if you want to talk about anything from 2008, we saw that 2008 the biggest collapse was the RMBSs and the collateralized debt swaps on those. If I could figure out how to short commercial mortgage-backed securities, I might do that because I think commercial is going to be really dead in the water. Not right away, but into next year, the year after. One thing that I've done recently, I've put a lot of money into opportunity funds. So a lot of the gains I'm doing now will go into the opportunity fund next year. In the meantime, I will be investing it short term in stocks and notes. But part of my bigger picture play has been and will continue to be short-term rentals. And my assumption is a lot of the short-term rentals in vacation areas, for us, it's ski areas, a lot of them priced what they bought their properties at based on the income that the short-term rental generated. Let's say that's $100,000 a year, where a longer-term rental maybe would have generated $30,000 a year. I think there's going to be a big reckoning with a lot of short-term rentals, and
Yeah.
I will be buying some or master leasing some. I'll probably be funding, prepaying, say, another year or two in advance to get them master lease that they might even subsidize just to help them out, just to get them out of this. And one thing that I keep asking the question of, and no one wants to talk about, is as far back as I can read in the 100+ years of single-family home investing, the government never told us to stop paying rent. So the government just kind of told everybody to ignore property law and in our property rights, and we all seem to be okay with that. And we all, whatever investment we have, whether it's a UST bill or stocks or homes, we have to have some sort of risk premium built into that. And we need to figure out how to have a risk premium that says we might not get rent for 4 months, because that was never in anybody's equation. And somehow it seems to be pretty natural right now.
Do you know Pete has promised that he's going to quit doing his capitalism talk, and he's not going to teach acquisitions again? I mean, I had this conversation with him an hour and a half ago, and we've had this conversation a lot. I keep trying to walk him back from the ledge. But he said with what the government has done, where they can step in between two people and then change the contract law between two people and just say, don't pay rent, you don't have to pay more. He is absolutely losing his mind. He said, how can I teach acquisitions, which I've always done because I thought a home was such a good investment. And, you can have a tenant pay for it, but for the government to step in and then say, tenants, you don't have to pay for it anymore and you won't get evicted.
Right.
He said, how do you how do you sell that course with a straight face? And
Well, I
he
think
really is going
clever
crazy.
enough. Pete is the one person that's clever enough to put about a half a sentence in there that would probably cover the situation of government intervention into his contracts. There's probably nobody that's more clear and concise as Pete to, to cover that as a loophole. But that would be an absolute shame for him to not teach that class.
Yeah, but again, he really is adamant about that, because he said if I teach it, I'd be lying. And you know what, Pete? Pete's a very black and white guy. He's very much that guy, and it just has him scared. So
I left a voicemail for my friend Jack Easton today. We like to leave each other funny voicemails. I said, "Hello, this is Bernie Sanders to all the millionaires and all the billionaires out there. I am going to stop running for president because I have succeeded. I got exactly what I wanted. I hope you enjoy socialism. My work is done here."
Speaking of which, you were talking about people who call. I had a call from Lyle by you, Demetri. So I've got to get on the phone with Lyle. I just had to section off about an hour and a half of time to take the phone call. So I want to see, how's he doing? Have you talked to him?
No, but talk loud. No, I haven't talked to that guy in a while, but I love him.
Yeah, I do too.
But
so Michael,
I've talked to more people, longer conversations over the last 3 weeks than I have in a long time. It's been kind of interesting. And, it's been, I do a little Slack group with communicating with investors, and we have, one guy who has 200 employees getting advice from one guy who has 3 on how to navigate all this PPP loans. It's really kind of interesting what, something like this can help us kind of reach out and, kind of help people out. It's fun.
yeah. The funny thing is I never use FaceTime on my phone, almost never. But then someone introduced me to Zoom.
Well, with a face like yours, why would you?
Thank you very much, buddy. But I just never used it because it's just always a phone to me. But they introduced me to Zoom, and I've been doing Zoom calls and go to webinar meetings with RIAs all over the country. And I've learned to like this because I can get 4 or 5 or 6 people on a call at one time. We can see each other. And I guess part of it is because I'm having to stay away from people. But with this, you can sit there and talk to people. And some of the calls are just goofy things, just friends. Other times it's like this, where I've been going to my friends who are a lot smarter than I am, just sit back and say, what's going on here? And to finish it off, Michael, what do you see 6 months from now?
Well, I would kind of regurgitate what Demetri says. I'm getting ready. I don't know if we're going to see the steak at the end of the buffet in the next 6 months, but I'm getting ready. I'm going to cash on as much as pre-planned stuff that we're going to cash on. 3 months ago, I would have said what I'm going to do with that cash is pay off mortgages that are already in my portfolio. Right now, I'm going to sit on it. I'm getting lines of credit on my houses, getting ready in case there is a really good buy opportunity. I don't think it's going to happen within 6 months. We need a pandemic to turn into a credit crunch before we really see really good buy opportunities.
And will that happen with so many people not paying, car notes, or not paying rents, or not paying mortgage payments? Will we see that?
It depends. They're raising the bar on FHA. FHA loans, if they take that away, that outside of VA loans, my market is, they have to take away VA and FHA to really eliminate the retail market in Colorado Springs. That would radically impact how hard it is to buy a house at retail. And if it's hard to buy at retail, it's hard to, it's going to impact what a wholesale buyer is going to pay. If that's going to impact what a wholesale buyer would pay, it's really got to impact what the wholesale buyer's hard money lender or funding source is willing to lend. So as those players either step off the sidelines, get out, 2008 was not that long ago, and people have can still see that in the rearview mirror. And a lot of people are a lot more conservative because they don't want to be the player left holding the bag on this round. So, the lenders that, that are lending, they're way more conservative. So, they might have funded 100% of the purchase, or up to, like, there are lenders that are funding commercial lenders funding 90% of the purchase and rehab. That's gone. So, the ability for one person to transact when all the lights are green is pretty much going away. Now there's going to be a smaller subset of buyers that are more liquid and are still able to buy, but those people probably have scars on their back, and they're a whole lot less likely to pay what they were willing to pay a month ago. So you're going to see a lot of, wholesale opportunities that are going to go back to market and not transact because of one reason or another. Either the buyer is more conservative, the lender's more conservative. I don't know. I'm not eager to rush into the waters. I'm eagerly kind of sitting back, waiting for things to happen, and I'm okay waiting for things to happen, and I'm ready to buy. In my IRA, I've committed to do 3 transactions here locally, all subject to existing loans, all in the 3% range. And I fully expect those houses that we're buying are probably going to go down a little in the short term. But it's a good debt, it's a good payment, it's a good property in a good area that'll attract a good tenant. And I'm using my IRA to overfund those transactions to cover the gap in rent on the front end.
Yeah, which would be a good idea. And again, when I'm looking, I'm getting a lot of phone calls from people who were the wholesalers, and they can't get the money. That means that I can work, and I've helped them a couple times go back to the seller and work a better deal. And then I cut myself in. I can cut myself in using option work, but it's just restructuring.
Where the creative deal structures are going to help people keep deals together, help keep homeowners together, help provide value when the typical wholesaler that has a one tool in their toolbox isn't going to be able to provide the solution. Because, I mean, that is just not a tool in itself that works in every single market. And a lot of wholesalers don't understand that.
Yeah, there was a wholesaler that called me on Friday, and he had a good deal, $250,000 house buying for like $145, estate situation, and his lender backed out, and so he called me up and said, "Can you help here?" And so we did a Zoom call with the buyer, with both sellers, and then also with this investor, and we talked it through about what was going on. And the main thing the seller wanted was, it was his mom's house, 9 months through probate. 9 months, 9 months through probate, and he was still having to make a mortgage payment. She had gotten a mortgage in 2009. It's now 2020, 11 years paid, not a bad deal. She bought it at a time when the market was down. So there was some equity in the house, and she never pulled the equity out. And all he wanted, his main focus was, can I get this payment off my back? Can I get this payment off my back? Because his wife, who worked in the restaurant industry, had lost her job. So now he's looking to say, we can make it. And we've applied, for unemployment stuff, but we have this gap, and I'm scared. And he was more worried about the monthly payment, because he's also mowing the grass, doing the utilities, everything that goes with it. He's more worried about that than the money that he would have made. He would have made about $51,000 if he would have if it had sold when it was supposed to. And the wholesaler, his purchase contract expires on like April the 12th or April the 13th. So he was going to lose this great deal, and he couldn't get anybody to loan on it. And it was a good deal. But in talking to him and hearing what the seller's problem was, I just said, let's do a subject to deal on the first, because it was a good first. And I talked to the owner and said, what if we gave you a note for the $51,000 and started making you payments of $211? Now you don't have the monthly payment on your back, and you're making $211. You don't have to cut the grass, and there's no more utilities or insurance or anything else. And he went for it. And so now all of a sudden, this wholesaler has a property he can keep that was like 4 miles from his house. That's how he found it. But it was close to his house, and it's cash flowing $390 a month, or it will cash flow $390 a month. And what he wanted was $7,000 wholesale fee. And so just with a little bit of restructuring, but I think what you guys said, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for someone who knows how to structure to go out there and help people solve some problems, where before it was the big damn hammer that, all someone wanted was cash. And now they're looking, saying, it's the monthly payments. It's cutting the grass. It's the utilities. I've got to get this thing gone. And the other thing that's happened is I've talked to a realtor, and 35% of houses fall through before closing. So if a house goes under contract, about 35% fall through. And now that number is way up because when it gets ready to go to closing, the buyer has lost a job or has gotten scared or whatever's happened. And so now the seller who thought their house was sold, the house isn't sold anymore. And now they got to start over. But when the house went under contract, the realtor said the house is sold. What?
That part does resemble 2007.
It does. But now you have this
Instead
seller.
of the buyer losing a job, it was the subprime lender going out of business. And then you'd go back to the starting point. Then you start to see, okay, back out and punt.
I think the number of closings that are going to fall through are way up. The ones that were under contract, they were being rushed to get to closing. But I think there's going to be a problem now where you have a lot of people who wanted to buy, but someone in the family lost a job, and you have to be on unemployment for 2 years and requalify, and it can be a problem. And that's why I looked at Kim, I said, I need to get out there and just start putting offers on every door I see. I won't knock on the door and talk to them, during the time we're supposed to be quiet, but I will stick an offer in the door. Just curious to see what will happen. But I think the three of us all said the same thing. We're all sitting on cash. We're all, we're looking. I think I'm probably more of I know Demetri's charging at stocks. I'm looking, saying I want to get out there. I want to get some of the work off my desk so I can go out and make some offers. Let's see what's going to happen. And Michael, you're looking at a time that, hey, let's get some of these deals coming in. And I don't think any of us know whether the recession is going to come now or not. What's going to happen in the next 4 months? We don't know.
Well, I also the same seminar I met Mike at, it was Jack Miller in the front of the room. There's probably 700 people there. He said, all you guys own houses in California, sell now. You are 10% below market, you're going to go to 40. And they all looked left and right, and they said, this guy's an idiot. They went to 60, and they all wished that they listened to him. And in 2007, I was dumb. 2008, 9,
Oh, don't sell yourself short. You've been dumb a lot longer than that.
But in 2008, 9, 10, I was brave. 2011 through 16, I was smart, and then 16 to now, I'm lucky. So I'll take it all. But and I did get into. I do a breakfast meeting here every other Tuesday, and the last one I was at was, all right, listen, folks, batten down the hatches. It's time to, we're about to get in defense mode real fast here. That was maybe second week in March, and I had automatic orders to buy maybe 6 different companies, stocks of public companies, and I had them what I thought was low. And I'm sitting there at breakfast, and all of them came in, and I didn't have that money. It was extended. And a couple of weeks into this, I had realized that I got into this too soon. If I would have taken some of that cash and waited, I would have done better. However, I thought I saw 4 or 5 different buying signals, so I put money in. I don't think in hindsight I would have changed. I think I still would have charged in and bought. Because I was in, I could figure out what, the bottom looked like and the turning around. And we're still early in this, but from where the V is right now. And then I charged in heavy because I was in the game. And if I wasn't in the game, I wouldn't have seen that change. And so I don't think I would have done anything different, but I did think I was a little bit soon. And, I was able to cover that by being more aggressive later when it was even lower. So there's no such thing as timing something, but there's a very big chance you will be too soon. If you're sitting on cash, or if you're aggressive right now, you will be too soon. And that's hard to time. It's always hard to time. But also, if you're not in it, you won't see when the change is. I could tell here in Denver when we hit bottom in the real estate market in Q4 of 2009. And if I wasn't actively in it, I wouldn't have felt it. All the experts could look back to 2012 and say that's when it was, but it was because we were in it that it was able to see what the bottom was. And then, So in 2007, when I was done, I bought these houses I was going to flip. I bought 4 of them. I still own 2 of them. And the only reason I own both of those is because I was creative with the financing with an investor with private money. And we changed from debt to equity. And that is what
smart.
the only 2 cents I can add is, don't do, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to go out and they're going to do some subject to, and they're going to promise to pay it off in 6 months. That 6 months is going to come way faster than you would ever think it will.
I got to say something. Wait, I got to jump in here real fast. Don't ever, when you do a subject to deal, I've never looked at someone and said, I'm going to pay off their mortgage early. I've always said the same thing. You made the mortgage. I'll make every mortgage payment you have for you on time, but I won't pay it off early. If I can, that's great, but don't ever promise that, because I've seen so many people that say, oh, we get it paid off in 3 years or 5 years, and they can't. And that just leads to some problems.
It'll be the fastest 6 months you've ever seen in your life.
Yep.
But doing some clever financing with sellers, with real people, or with private money, will give you the flexibility. I'm always a proponent of debt if it's done correctly, but especially on rising assets. And if you're going to grow, you can't do it without some sort of leverage. And so, I mean, we're talking about paying off debt and everything, but if anyone is listening to, to grow, whether you're leveraging people or whether you're leveraging money, you can't get rich without either one of those.
Now, we leveraged the hell out of everything when we were starting. I mean, we didn't know how not to do that. We had loans on everything and then slowly started paying them off. It just took a while. Okay, guys, this has been enjoyable. Michael, Demetri, I wish we could have had Cantu on, because he's always, he's the most grizzly out of all of us.
Yeah.
Yep. But I really appreciate you guys doing this.
No worries. Anytime.
My pleasure.
I'll see y'all next time I'm out.
See you.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.